Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Defenders Live. I am your host, Lora Thorson. Lee Weems has been a peace officer since 1999, serving as a patrolman, field training officer, detective, supervisor, and three-term chief deputy. And he now works full-time in the training space. He's also an adjunct professor of political science and criminal justice, bringing an academic lens to real-world decision-making. Lee holds a wide range of institutional instructor certifications through Georgia Post, the FBI, and the Federal Law Enforcement Training Centers. And he is a handgun combative certified instructor and a range master staff member. Through his work at First Person Safety and his ongoing content and commentary, he's known for a direct discipline approach to training that prioritizes thinking, accountability, and outcomes over trends. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed, whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you find this show. If you don't want to miss another episode, head to defenders-live.com and become a free subscriber. That way, every new episode gets delivered straight to your inbox. And if you're looking for top-tier firearms and self-defense training, go to defenders-usa.com and check the calendar to see what's coming to your area this year. So I learned about you through a friend of mine, and I started checking out your podcast. I want to say this was a few years back. How long have you had the podcast?
Oh, gosh, I think about 4 years now.
Okay. So it might have been towards the beginning. And I was just exploring on there, and I happened to come across Brian Hill.
hmm
And I had never heard of the guy, didn't know who he was. And I started listening to you interviewing Brian Hill, and I was blown away by him. And that was the first introduction I had to him. And that made me do a little bit more exploring on him. And now, however many years later, I think it's been 3 years or so, it's amazing to me that like I personally know him and that he's an actual friend of mine and that he's such a cool guy. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think I sort of idolized him in the beginning, especially listening to him on your show. And I remember listening to it more than once as
Yeah.
well. So thank you for introducing me to him.
Well, good. I'm glad it worked. Glad
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah, it was really cool.
You know, before Brian took off on the whole national uh, instructing scene, he taught locally. He's about an hour away from me, an hour and a half.
Okay.
Um, he had a martial arts gym not far
Yeah.
from here, and he mostly taught martial arts stuff, and then did firearms in conjunction with that.
Mhm.
And one thing in this whole firearms instructor world, there's a lot of competition because there's a lot of people fighting for a very small pie, their
Mhm.
piece of it. Um, you would think that us being here so geographically close to each other that we would have been competitors, and we actually were not. We were very much colleagues.
Mm.
Uh, I promoted his stuff, he promoted my stuff. We would tell each other, like if people came to my class about, hey, and you also need to go over here and train with this guy. And he would do the
Mhm.
same thing. And we had a very good, long-standing running joke about who took success for whatever something good a student would do.
Yeah.
The pandemic got his martial arts studio,
Yeah.
that and some real estate stuff. Um, and that's when he hit the road as a national instructor, and it's done very well for him, and I'm
Mhm.
happy to see his success, and I'm glad that you found him through the show.
Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I remember I remember where I was on the interstate when I told my friend after I listened to it already once. She was riding with me and I'm like, "You have to listen to this guy." It was that adamant. I was like, "This guy, you got to listen to this guy. Have you ever heard of him?" She's like, "No." It's just crazy how you can touch people, Lee. I mean, I think as podcasters we forget what the reach can actually be and the hearts that can change or the minds that can change just from one little conversation, right? That to us might not be a big deal, but it might be exactly what someone else needs.
Yeah, my show started by accident.
I was going to ask you that.
I had no intention of having a podcast. I just
Really?
didn't. It was not on my radar.
I didn't
Uh,
either, actually.
for 12 years, I was the public information officer for the sheriff's office that I worked at. And if anybody Googled me once I was out of the chief deputy PIO role, and was trying to get the training business up and going full speed, if anybody Googled me, all they would find was news stories of me talking about a wreck in 2016 or
Yeah.
a string of burglaries or something like that. The training business didn't show up until like page 2 or 3 in the Google results. And so
Hmm.
like, I gotta put some stuff out that will be new content that drives people to the training
The
stuff.
training. Yeah. That's smart.
And so I started off just doing uh, a few little short videos. I called them stop and think videos, and I would just like pose a question and would like try to get commentary and stuff going. And ultimately, Eric Gilhouse and I were going to have a conversation that was probably going to be about a 20-minute conversation. That was more than you could just do like a little 3-minute video exchange and drop through Messenger or whatever. So we did it by Zoom. And I put it up. I think it was like a 22-minute, something like that, thing on YouTube. And then John Hearn and I did one about the same time limit. And then somebody asked me, "It's like, when are you going to start putting these out as podcasts?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not." And I kept getting that question. It's like, when are you going to start putting them out? And so Carl Wren told me about what was then called Anchor. It's now Spotify for creators or whatever. So
Yeah.
look, it won't cost you anything. So I just started dropping what were basically phone calls I was already having with people. We just started
Yeah.
having them on Zoom,
Yeah.
and we just dropped the recordings on that, and it took off.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked. The numbers got a little bit better than where they are now, and then they've kind of settled in.
Yeah.
But I was really shocked at how well it took off. And you mentioned about how people, something that happens on an episode, like you met Brian Hill that way.
Yeah.
It amazes me because a lot of times, like, I hear the interviews as I'm doing them, and then I put them up, but I don't go back and like listen to them really closely.
Yeah.
But other people will like listen to the episode. I'll get like an email that asks a very insightful question, or I'll be at an event. Somebody will, I was listening to that episode with you and Lora Thorson, and and I have to go back and listen to it then to see exactly what it
Yeah.
was
What did I say?
we said.
Yeah.
And so I'm very appreciative that people have found value in it.
Hmm. Yeah, there's definite value there. And I was looking back on some of your older episodes and I was like trying to see a pattern. I was like, what is Lee Weems' legacy on through the podcast? What is it that he's trying to leave behind? Is kind of what I was wondering.
Um, I think the best episodes of the show are when we had on a lot of what I would call the first generation trainers, a lot of the original Gunsight people,
Mm-hmm.
and people who were part of that era as far as training that went on, like Tom Givens, Dave Spalding,
Mm-hmm.
those guys, where we documented a lot of the history of how all this got started.
Yeah.
Because you think about it now, anybody can, and here's two of us that have done it, anybody can fire up the cameras and get out to an audience now. And back in the old days, that wasn't it. You actually had to get through editorial filters
Mm-hmm.
and get out and reach audiences that way. And I think the populace had a much longer attention span back then.
Mm-hmm.
And really and truly trying to take deep dives into issues where we like to be on the show. I like to say we keep it on the deep end of the pool to avoid the low attention span that's on the internet out there,
Yeah.
and try to stay in theme. I'm really proud of documenting a lot of the history. And sometimes I'll get people like, when are you going to write a book on this? I am. It's just an audio visual book.
Yeah, you're writing it as you go.
Yeah, just get on the YouTube page or download them on Spotify.
Transcribe all of the shows. You can make a book right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them are literally, they are especially the early episodes were phone calls that I was already having.
Yeah.
And now people just got to listen into them.
They were like fly on the wall type situations. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So
sometimes when I do these conversations, I forget I'm recording. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you mentioned John Hearn. John Hearn is a particularly interesting character. I've had him on the show, and I recently went to his presentation called Crimes and Criminals, I think is what it's called, that he just did. And I've never met anyone like John Hearn before, but I do notice that you guys have how do you describe your relationship with John Hearn? I don't know. How did this
I
come about? When did you get to know him? And
Well, I met him through Tom Givens and
okay,
Rangemaster,
okay.
and uh, to hear us talk, people might not think that we like each other or that we don't respect each other. That is by far not the case.
Yeah.
The first time I met John, I went to Rangemaster's instructor development course, and Tom makes you get up and introduce yourself. And I got up and I really short sold my intro, my bio. And just before I got up there to say that, John was sitting behind me and he leaned up and he whispered something very sarcastic in my ear that I can't say on air and everything. And so I get up and I short sell my bio and I come back and I sit down and he stands up. Oh no, we're not letting you get away with that. And he puts me on the spot. And we've been ripping shreds from each other ever since, in a good natured sense. So how would I describe our relationship? He's the older brother that I did not want, but I kind of like.
Wait, he's older than you?
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Not by
Interesting.
much, but he is. Enough for me to remind him of the fact that he's older than I am.
Hmm. It's good to find people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, where I place the most value on our friendship is he's someone who holds me in check. He and Eric Gelhaus is probably the other contemporary and all of that. We do a John and Eric and I do an event. I can't say annually because we haven't been able to pull it off every year, but we call it the Cognitive Conclave. And it's all
Oh
about
yeah.
the thinking side of this whole shooting thing.
Yeah.
And, if I want to start throwing stuff out there, like putting it up on social media or in a conversation, John will challenge me on it and Eric will challenge me on it. And we do the same thing to each other.
Hmm.
And it makes sure that we are solid in what we're saying, that we're not just able to go out there and throw drive-by comments
Yeah.
or throw things out there.
That's
I,
important.
I know if I start going too far on the edge, John's going to yank my chain
Hmm.
gleefully
Hmm.
and artfully, and I'll do the same to him. And
Hmm.
it makes us be better.
I love that. I have some people like that in my life too, and I give more weight to what they say than I do anyone else. So for good reason.
Yeah.
um, I wanted to ask you before we get, because I guess before we get into the business, because I have actual
Right.
questions that I
Hmm.
have written out for you. But, just as a side note, I'm wondering. I didn't ask you this before the recording, but as we're recording today, as far as world events go, the Minnesota ice thing is a really big thing going on right
Right.
now. I'm really curious as to your perspective and your commentary on that, if you want to comment about it. It's been what, 3 or 4 days now?
Sure. Sure. One is first and foremost, it is irresponsible to make hard and fast opinions just off of video
Hmm.
without having interviewed people that were involved and know what was going through their mind. Um, I have seen 3 different angles of video from this incident.
Hmm.
If all I had seen was the first one, I'd be raising eyebrows. I'd be questioning,
The passenger side video,
right?
or
Yeah,
no,
I'd
the
be,
driver's side video. Is that the
yeah,
one you're referring to?
and that's the one the news media keeps running with because that's the
Yeah,
one that um, is
the
the
gal.
most questionable. And
Yeah.
speaking of that, the first time when I first started looking for video on it, um, one of the news outlets had one of the other angles up first, and then they replaced the video at that link with the
Hmm.
more questionable angle,
Really?
right? Because I sent the link to someone in text. I was like, "Hey, have you seen video of that? I'm not where I can watch it." So I said, yeah, I sent them a link, and then later I clicked on it to watch it again, and it was a different video than what had
Hmm.
been uploaded previously.
Hmm.
Yes, I won't say that. I don't want them to get in the battle with the news outlet. But you watch those the one that's from like the showing the driver's side of the vehicle,
Yeah.
I could see where people are finding, at
Hmm.
least have serious questions about it. You watch the one from the other side of the vehicle, and you go, "Oh, that looks a whole lot more justified."
Hmm.
And then you watch the one that's from like the camera that was in the officer's hand or the
Hmm.
agent's hand. That paints a whole other another picture. Now, here's what I'm talking about: where you can't let video make make hard and fast determinations from that. When I first saw the videos, I did not have the knowledge that this officer had previously been drugged by a vehicle.
Hmm.
That changes a whole lot because you have to factor that into his whole calculation of reasonableness
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Um, the Supreme Court in a case called Graham versus Connor established on the civil side what the framework for making justification determinations in a use of force case is. And that is, it has to be objectively reasonable based on what a reasonable officer with serious, similar training, experience, everything would do in those same circumstances as they are occurring, understanding that they are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving, and without the hindsight 2020
Hmm.
that would come later.
Hmm.
And so if I put myself in that agent's shoes, having already been drugged by a vehicle, and then, standing, he's walking up to the car and it all of a sudden is coming towards him and the tires are spinning in the ice,
Hmm.
hits him. Okay. Again, I haven't interviewed him, but I can start looking at that being objectively reasonable use of force. Now, here's where I'm going to make the other side mad. Just because something is objectively reasonable doesn't mean that it's a good tactic. Okay, a 9mm bullet ain't going to stop that car.
Mm.
And perhaps concentrating on getting out of the way is a better tactic. Now, I can say that I'm sitting in Georgia and it is 66 degrees here. I'm not standing on a frozen roadway, roadway in Minnesota with a car coming towards me, barreling towards me with its tires spinning and everything. We don't, I don't think the public understands this.
Yeah, I
The,
was going to ask you that next.
the courts don't say you have to be 100% right. You have to be objectively reasonable. Okay, you can be wrong, but still be reasonable.
Hmm.
And I take you with that to an incident in, I think it was Cleveland, Ohio, several years ago. A young boy by the name, I think his name was Tamir Rice. Officers were dispatched to a city park about an individual with a gun. They drive right up to the individual, get out, and the guy turns around and he's got a gun in his hand, and one of the officers shoots him, kills him. Turns out it's a boy who was holding a toy gun. Okay, you can't walk over to the guy and then, oh my gosh, that's a toy.
After the
Okay,
fact. Yeah.
that doesn't make it wrong. Is at the instant the force was used was reasonable. He thought the guy was raising a gun at him.
Hmm.
I've personally been in that situation.
Mm.
4 days after Columbine, I was a rookie officer in field training. I confronted a guy with a toy gun, and I almost shot him. And the fact that it would have turned out to be a toy doesn't change the fact that I didn't know that at the time I used force. That's what I'm saying. It just has to be reasonable. It doesn't have to be 100% correct. And as the court saying Graham versus Connor, we can't come in with 2020 hindsight.
Hmm.
And then things we found out after the fact, changed that whole reasonableness equation. Just like if we find out things after the fact that would paint the officer more reasonable, if the officer didn't know them at the time that they used force, then they can't claim, oh, look, but yeah, the fact that the guy just committed a murder 3 blocks away, and was running, away from that, that doesn't change the whole thing unless the officer
Right.
knew it at the time.
Hmm.
Uh, like I saw one commentator in the immediate aftermath of this is like, why didn't he shoot out the car tires?
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, that's not going to stop the vehicle.
Even I know better than that.
That's not going to stop the vehicle. And so again, it's the standard is not right. The standard's not you like it. The standard is not you agree with it. The standard is was it objectively reasonable? And I don't want to make a hard and fast pronouncement, but based on all three of the camera angles that I've seen, based on the knowledge that the guy had been drugged by a car, the car did hit him. You can make a case for objective reasonableness. You don't have to like it, but you can make that case.
Yeah, that's all really good. Thanks for weighing in on that. So I think that's on a lot of people's minds right now. I mean, especially, the news cycle changes. I don't know, however many days it seems like something new and crazy is happening. So then that outweighs the thing before. But right now, that is what everyone is talking about. And
Yeah. A couple other things that go along with that is you've got the local and state officials in Minnesota that are claiming they're being frozen out of the investigation. Well, as the Secretary of Homeland Security has said, you're not being frozen out. You have no jurisdiction.
mhm,
There's nothing to freeze you out of. And she is 100% correct.
mhm.
He was a federal agent performing federal duties. The state and local government have no authority over the
And
guy.
some of the things that I hear some of the state and local politicians saying in some of these cases really just confuses the public even more
Right.
and makes the division even worse.
Right.
It's just, I I don't know. I don't want to go into it, but it just I remember what the news used to sound like, in the 90s. Just like if you just flip on the news, the 6 o'clock news or whatever, what that would, sort of kind of sound like. And now, because I don't watch like the news on TV like I used to back then, I just watch clips here and there. I'm just like appalled at
Right.
what the heck is going on. What just the way that it's presented is so odd. The things they choose to highlight and how they skew certain things and leave out other things, it just is. But to someone who doesn't know any different, I can see how they would be easily swayed one way or the other in that. And it's just so unfortunate to watch. It's hard to
Growing up, and I'm a news junkie, and
Yeah.
I'm a government and politics junkie.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Growing up, we would have the nightly news on the local station at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then you had a 30-minute national broadcast at 7 o'clock. I grew up on the East Coast, so Eastern time.
Mhm.
Yeah, from 7 to 7:30. Yeah, there was like one national thing on each network. And then you got the 11 o'clock news for 30 minutes. And then, ABC had Nightline that would come on after that. And that was it. And then you had your local newspapers.
Mhm.
Well, that's been replaced by 24/7 coverage with all the social media and everything that entails and go along with that. And they want to keep eyeballs glued as much as they can. So they're going to go with the most controversial things.
Mhm.
I mentioned earlier that I used to be the public information officer. Well, we had two deputies that were involved in an incident. And it's, the incident's going to be some things that some people just aren't going to like about it. But they made a 100% correct legal decision. And when a local Atlanta reporter initially reported on it, and then it drew national attention, and I'll say it was Fox News. And, that's the new channel of the right wing, side, so to speak. Local Fox affiliate did a news story on it. Big Fox picked it up. Big Fox omitted several key facts that changed the narrative.
No kidding. And this was when? In the 90s?
This would have been late 2010s,
Okay.
somewhere in there. And basically the whole incident was that Springtime temperature around here were like in the 80s. We had a brand new shopping center open up. There was a lady that went to go shopping. She left her dog in a car.
Mm.
Passerby see the dog in the car. They're concerned about it, so they call 911. Dispatchers dispatch a deputy, and they call animal control. While while the deputies are on the way, another passerby comes by and he's pushing his wife in a wheelchair, and he sees the dog in the car, and he takes the footrest off of the wheelchair that his wife was in, and he breaks out every window in this car. Not just a window, like all the glass from the sides. He didn't take out the front and rear windshields. And the dog gets out and like runs through the parking lot. And the owner comes out of the store, and there's her dog sitting there at the door to the store that she went in. She's like, "What? How did you get out of the car?" And she goes walking out, and there's all these shards of glass and
Oh,
everything.
man.
Other bystanders tried to stop the guy's like, "Wait, no, no, deputies are en route." And he busts out like four windows out of this car. And at this point in time, the deputies pull up, and um, this woman tells the deputies like, "I want him arrested. He just, well, under Georgia law, it was criminal damage to property, second degree, a felony.
Wow.
Damage was over $500." So the deputies ended up, they arrested him. Animal control cites her for leaving the dog unattended in the car. All right, so they're both sides are catching something
Yeah.
here. The animal rights activists got it after it got into the media, and there was change.org petitions with my name on it, want me to drop the charges. People from all over the country were calling in the office screaming at me.
Wow.
All this stuff going on. And when the news cameras started showing up to interview this guy, he's like, I am a veteran of the Gulf War, and I saw all this death and destruction, and I couldn't stand to see this dog suffer. And Fox News, Big Fox, runs this story: veteran arrested for saving dog from car.
Oh, wow.
Well, I gave the producer pictures of the car. I kind of told them about her. She was also charged, all that kind of stuff. They left all that
Left
out.
that out.
There was nothing that they reported that was not factually. Everything they reported was factually correct. They just left
Yeah.
out some facts.
Huh.
Because veteran arrested for saving dog attracts viewers.
Yeah.
And it was so bad that the local reporter called and apologized to me.
Oh,
And that was
man.
a first. And I'm like, look, I understand your report was entirely accurate. You didn't do anything
Yeah.
that we would be upset with you about anything. You did your job. You reported a news story. You reported it accurately. You reported it fairly. I understand. Now, if I ever get a chance to, and I'm not going to say their names, but two Fox people from the Fox News channel, if I ever get a chance to have a face-to-face conversation with them, it'll get ugly. But,
Okay, here's my question, going a little bit deeper on that. And I wasn't planning on this, but sometimes it's more fun that way. What is it exactly about a good story that people can really sink their teeth into and really take a stance and a side on something? What is it about that? That's so that they're actually encouraging and you know what I'm saying? Like what is that about?
well, veteran arrest is automatically going to get, and the headline is automatically going to draw in viewers. Saving dog is going to automatically draw in.
It's appealing to emotions. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's appeal to that. I'll go on the Wayback Machine here. Vince Dooley was the longtime coach at the University of Georgia football. One of his assistants was his defensive coordinator, was a guy named Irk Russell. Irk used to get mad, and this was in his book, that people would name their sons Vince and their dogs Irk. And then he took a job at a college in South Georgia, and he said he came to realize that people thought more of their dogs than they did their children. And so now he thought he was honored that people would name their dogs after him.
Wow.
And so, that one headline we were just talking about, in media terms, they would call that a dog whistle event because it attracts everybody to it. Because people got to be mad at the cops. They got to be mad at the veteran getting arrested, and he saved this dog. Why was he in?
So it's all about activating emotions, it sounds like. I mean,
Right. Oh, and here's the kicker, and I left this out earlier. Um, a military friend of mine looked up the guy, and he is technically correct in that he was a Gulf War veteran. But offensive operations in the Gulf War began in February of 1991. The guy arrived in country in December of 1991. And
hmm,
I gave that to all the news outlets too,
hmm.
and they didn't report that.
I don't know why I'm surprised.
Yeah,
I shouldn't be at this point.
right. And so, what does all that have to do with it? So you go back and look at the incident here in Minnesota. It's a sharp dividing line dog whistle issue, and people are making hard and fast formed opinions
Mhm. Same
off
in
of a
Portland right
camera,
now, too.
off of a camera angle. Because look, if you're left wing, these evil ICE agents are up there, and she didn't want nobody to hurt him with that car.
Hmm.
If you're on the other side, well, obviously she was running him over with that car. It was perfectly reasonable for him to, to do what he did. And so it's getting the eyes from both sides are all glued to the media.
Is
And
this going to get better over
no,
time? What is, where is this all going?
well,
The
it's
trajectory is not looking good right now.
I hate to be doom and gloom and everything like that, but every country on earth has a time span.
Yeah.
And if you look at history,
And when I travel the country too, I'm not seeing those isolated incidents and
mm-hmm.
cases that I see on the news.
Right.
I'm not getting that same vibe everywhere I go. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel widespread. But is it becoming more widespread? I don't know.
There's definitely an urban versus rural divide. That is definite.
Mm-hmm.
But even in the rural, you might be 70% conservative, 30% liberal. In the city, you might be 70% liberal, 30% conservative.
Yeah.
But there's definitely an urban rural divide. It's not like a state thing anymore.
Yeah. I know because
Yeah,
Montana has changed a
right.
lot.
And the western states are more susceptible to it than east and west coast states are because your population's so sparse.
Mm-hmm.
It won't take many people moving in from California to flip your elections.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Denver and Boulder are very liberal, but they outnumber the rest of the state, which is very
Mm-hmm.
conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Fun times we live in, Lee Weems.
yep, unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah. So maybe this would be a good time to go into the question I was going to ask you about bureaucracy
Okay.
and the profession that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You have a story about this. Tell me the background of how bureaucracy has changed your career.
Bureaucracy completely changed my path. I did not set out to be a peace officer. It was something I always had an interest in, but it was not something that was like my first goal. And I graduated high school. I did not have a college preparatory diploma. I never took any of the college prep,
Really?
exams, none of that. Matter of fact, I was not in the smart group in school. I got labeled in middle school and got put in the dumb group.
What?
And, yeah. Like I said, don't have a college prep diploma and none of that. Graduated high school. My junior year, I was forced to write an essay, and I wrote an essay on how I would never set foot in a classroom again after I graduated from high school.
Hmm.
After about 4 years of manual labor, I decided maybe that was not the best path, and I started looking at technical school options and everything, and maybe getting a better trade out
Yeah.
of this. Ultimately, ended up quitting a job and I could go back on my parents' health insurance if I was a student. And just to buy time, basically, to figure out what to do next move, I called Georgia Military College. I used to go to lunch every day, had a little fast food place that was near where I worked, and a poster was up in it was a Dairy Queen and advertising that you could go to Georgia Military College for $1 a quarter based on we have a scholarship program here in Georgia.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I can swing $1. And if I go to college for a quarter, I can go back on my father's health insurance for a while, and that'll buy time for me to figure out what to do. And so I called the number on that poster. It's like, what do I got to do? And they said, well, come down and take our entrance exam. And so I go down and I take the entrance exam. I scored a 97 on the reading portion, a 93 on the writing portion, and a 74 on the math portion. Because
Hmm.
I had been put in the dumb group because of my math scores in school. So I go in and end up enrolled in my first quarter of classes. They put me in all college level classes because I had passed. After the first day of college algebra, I went to my advisor and said, I'm not ready for college algebra. And so by my own choice, I took a remedial math class. And the next quarter, I took college algebra and had such a high grade in it that I exempted the final. For the first year of college, because I was having so much fun, I was like, well, I'm going to keep doing this. For the first year of college, I kept a 4.0. I lost it in college biology, and I got a little big for my britches, and I took trig as my math science elective, and I managed to get a B in trig.
uh,
Um, Decided that I was going to be a middle school teacher because in middle school I had been labeled in the dumb group.
oh,
I'm going to go back and I'm going to rectify this. I'm going to go be a middle school teacher to right that wrong.
wow.
And so I was going to be, that was my major, middle grades education. And in Georgia, for middle grades, you have to certify in 2 areas. And so I was going to certify in social studies and in English. Spend my junior year in college as an education major, get to my senior year, and they tell me that you're not allowed to have a job while you do student teaching. Well, at this point in time, I'm 26 years old, 25, 26. Like, I've got to have a job. Oh no, this is our rules. You're not allowed to have a job while you're in your student teaching. This is where I say bureaucracy changed my life. I
Mm.
got caught up in this bureaucratic thing, and I was closer to a political science degree than anything because I was, like I said, I was going to certify to teach in social studies. And so I just went in and changed my major to political science just so I could finish
Wow.
and and got a bachelor's degree in political science with a minor in history. But like I said, I did spend that year as an education major, and I took all the classes where I learned the term pedagogy. That's basically the organization of a class. And
Mm.
the operative part of that is peda, which is children. So it's teaching children. Um, Realize that a degree in political science is not going to be an employable degree. So basically, I'm coming out of 4 years of college no more employable than I was.
I have the same experience, not with that degree, but I know what you mean.
Other than the fact that I could now say I had a college degree.
Right.
Um, so I began looking for other options, and I found a police department that would pay for me to go to graduate school if I worked for the police department. And
Oh.
it was funny. My father did 27 years in the military and was adamant that I would not have anything to do with the military. And so he was out of town. I went and stayed in his house and in my mama's house while they were gone. And I did my interview and got hired without telling them anything about it. And so I graduated from college, went back home, and I graduated December 17th. And I'm back home at Christmas time, and they were like, so what are you going to do now that you graduated? So I've got a job. What are you going to do? Well, next Monday I start with the police department, and that did not go over well whatsoever.
Wow.
But I went to work, and in my interview, I told the the command staff that I would give them 5 years. I'll work here 5 years. By that point in time, I'll be done with my master's degree, and I'm going to go on about my life's work. And I got a master's degree in public administration, and I've been a cop ever since because I've just not been able to quit it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What has kept you there? Bureaucracy?
No. One, I'm good at it. I would not be happy going and doing a job that did not have the mental challenge. And just
Yeah,
going,
never a dull moment, I'm sure. Well, there's dull moments, but
right,
with intermittent excitement and adrenaline dumps, I'm sure.
just going and doing a job, even if it pays more, has absolutely no interest to me whatsoever. And there have been times where I tried to leave because I have I teach college classes and everything. I got offered a full-time education job at one point in time, and I considered it, and I looked at some other things, and I just kept
coming back.
I can't walk away.
Is it from an obligation or duty standpoint, or is it a love, or could you help me understand what it is?
Both.
Okay.
My father was military. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. One of his brothers was killed in World War II. Just a long sense, I've always felt obligated to be a part of something and do something that mattered. And I'm not besmirching people that have other jobs, but like sitting at a desk working on spreadsheets, or whatever, even if I could make more money doing that kind of thing, just
not as fulfilling.
There's the fulfillment of it.
Yeah.
On my 10th anniversary, the sheriff in the neighboring county to where I was working offered me the chance to be his chief deputy. And so I went, and I was the chief deputy is the number 2 in the sheriff's office. You have the sheriff, and then it was me. And so I went from being a shift level supervisor to being chief deputy of an entire county. And just the challenge of that and everything that went along with it. And one of the reasons he brought me in was my passion for training. And he wanted to bring that into the sheriff's office. He realized that times were changing and he had to modernize. And so he brought me in to kind of fight a culture battle within the office. And I did it too good because ultimately I trained up the people that ended up replacing me. But awesome. Through that, like all of a sudden, I get to determine what the training program is instead of carrying out what somebody else was doing.
Right. That's a big deal.
Right. And through that research led me to a guy named Tom Givens. And so I brought him in, to hosted a course just so I could take it and everything, and brought him in, and ended up myself and a couple of the guys, we started taking turns bringing in national level instructors.
That's so awesome.
Swapping, taking the spots and swapping them around. We built up our entire training cadre that way. And just how I managed to get into the open enrollment training world was doing that, bringing those people in. And ultimately, Tom took me under his wing and invited me to join Range Master as a staff instructor. And, through that, I've anybody that knows me from the firearms training world, that's how it all transpired.
I love that. I've always wondered. So yeah, I appreciate you explaining that. And you said that this topic segues into the domains of knowledge that you had emailed me. Could you go into that for a minute?
Yeah. Well, let me go back to something from the education standpoint first. I mentioned pedagogy a minute ago. And if you're going to learn how to teach children, be a school teacher, they pound that pedagogy into your head. Excuse me for a second. 25 years later of this cop thing, I go back to grad school and I get a graduate certificate in adult education, workforce and adult education. And buzzword in adult education is andragogy.
Okay.
That's the teaching of adults.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to tell you how teaching adults is so much different than teaching children. And, some of the key text in adult education goes in the characteristics of adult learners. And some of the key phrases, things in that is that adults want to be self-directing. They want to be able to make their own choices. They don't want to be browbeaten. They want to have a say in what's going on. They want a practical application
Mm-hmm.
for the knowledge that they're learning or being exposed to, whether or not they learn. All of that. And they want to make a big difference is that different models, like in the pedagogy model, the teacher's at the top and the students are all at the bottom and information is going one way.
Mm-hmm.
But in the andragogy model, the teacher's in the middle, the students are all surrounding, and the information's two ways. Well, there's a latest trend in traditional education circles. They're calling student-centered learning. And guess what? What the pedagogy people are now pushing of student-centered learning is just a repackaged model of the andragogy model. Basically, all people, whether they're children or adults, want to have some say in what's going on.
I agree with that.
And so that has changed my philosophy in teaching, because quite frankly, I'm one that gives a lot of deference to experts. And I grew up in a very extended family with a lot of contact with great uncles and great aunts and everything. And I tend to give deference to the people that came before me, and I want to go learn from them. And if they say this, then I, whatever. Well, that's kind of the way I presented material. I won't say taught, because I don't know that I was actually teaching anybody. That's the way I presented material a long time. And because quite frankly, that's a lot of what was presented to me too, is I'm the expert. I'm going to tell you the best way to do this. Now do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it the way I'm telling you to do it, it leads to confrontation. Yeah, it leads to confrontation. Yeah. Dang it, Thorson, I have told you that's not the right way to hold a gun. Now do it the way I told you.
Right.
And everything. And to now looking at the whole, whether you want to call it the student-centered learning approach or the adult learner characteristics, hey, Thorson, do me a favor. Do what you were doing just then. Now, on this next evolution, I want you to roll your hand a little more and fill in this space in your grip and go ahead and shoot a few rounds like that. What did you see different? Oh, well, the way you just showed me, the sights returned back to where they were, or something along those lines.
Yeah. Asking for feedback. Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so which one do you think works better? Oh, well, the way you should. Well, make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you're helping guide them to make a decision to what's better versus trying to beat them over the head with what's better.
If you've been listening to Defenders Live and something in you knows it's time to go deeper, not just in your training, but in your life, become a paid subscriber of Defenders Live. Each month, we meet for a live group call, having real conversations about physical growth, emotional discipline, and spiritual strength. You'll be part of a growing community of people just like you, committed to becoming true defenders of life and of their families. This isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, doing the work, and not doing it alone. So go to defenders-live.com and become a paid subscriber and take your next step toward becoming the kind of defender this world desperately needs. I totally experienced that early in my instructor career, where I felt as though it was my responsibility to download information into the brains of my students.
Yeah.
And probably 3 years into it was when I started changing my mind about that, because I met someone who did it differently. And I went, wait a second. And I actually was angry, Lee.
Yeah.
I was angry because my intention has always been good, and I never wanted to mislead anyone or do anything wrong. I always was trying to do the right thing by my students, but I didn't realize until then that it was more of a conversation, or should be, and an adaptability on my part to the student rather than this rigidness of, a PowerPoint, A, B, C, D kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And also, what I've noticed, and maybe you have too, is it's way more fun that way.
Oh yeah.
Everyone is so different.
hmm Yep.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
there's a better connection between
Right.
coach and student, in my opinion.
But show them the material, present it in a way where they have a choice,
Hmm.
and the results are so much better.
Yeah.
And the big thing too is that there's less conflict.
Hmm.
And I owe a lot of students apologies. Yeah,
I probably do too.
yeah. I want to go find them. Hey, you remember that day on the range when I yelled at you for what? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
do you
Kind
think that
of
had anything to do with how you were trained in law enforcement? That was kind of,
oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine that influence carried into
Oh
you
yeah.
as a trainer.
Absolutely.
And
Uh,
I imagine your experience and your background, or anyone in your position who becomes a firearms trainer, what are the things about that particular background that are advantageous to be a civilian trainer, and some things that actually might be holding trainers back with that kind of a background?
well, and this can kind of get into the domains of knowledge
Oh,
topic as well.
yeah.
Law enforcement is one of our failings is that we will send somebody to an instructor school and immediately consider them to be an expert in that
Mm,
topic when there's not been a chance to experiment with the material,
mhm,
find things out, and then come back, and then now you're trying to teach it to everyone
mhm,
else
mhm.
when you may not really even understand what you're doing with that.
Yeah.
Benefits to the law enforcement side or the institutional side is other people pay for you to go to a lot of schools.
Mm.
And I have shot quite a bit of taxpayer furnished ammunition in my life, and the taxpayers have paid for me to go to a lot of training in a lot of schools.
Yeah.
Um, that and access some things that are not available to a private sector student.
Mhm.
One would be um, took an 80-hour course through the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center to be a use of force instructor. And so an 80-hour
Wow.
laboratory on use of force.
Mhm.
They had a company of actors that did all the role play. You had a lawyer following you around,
How
debriefing you.
fun was that? Was that a blast?
Oh, it was absolute
Oh,
blast. The most work I have ever done in a class, because there were 5 pass or go home points in this class.
wow.
And we had someone dismissed from the class on day 9 of the 10-day class at one of those pass or go home points.
Oh,
Um,
no.
so there was a lot riding on it.
Yeah.
But that's where I learned all the stuff, Graham versus Connor, the objective reasonableness, all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. That level of class is just not available to the private sector. So that's from the law enforcement side where you can get into it. The other thing that goes along with it is you have a ready-made laboratory of students to experiment with,
Mm.
good or bad.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, I was early on. I was in that I'm in charge of this class. We're going to do it this way. This is the best way to do this. Now go do it. Um, and those are the people that I owe a lot of apologies to. Versus now where I'm getting to do it on the other end of, all right, I'll try this. What did you notice?
Mhm.
Okay. Compare it to this other method. What did you notice?
Mhm.
Which one do you prefer? Right. Well, that's probably the one you should do.
Yeah,
And,
and I think on the decision-making side of things too, you've been put in situations where you've had to make some really important decisions
right.
that somebody like me just haven't been put in that scenario.
Yeah.
In that real life scenario. You can, simulate that to some degree, I know. But
Yeah. I talk a lot about the dividing line between technical and application, the technical running of a gun versus the
mhm,
application of force.
mhm,
And quite frankly, the shooting problems that are out there don't take a whole lot of skill, like real world
Yeah.
shooting problems.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a grandmaster to defend
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as soon as I say that, all the competition side of that, they go, you're just saying that because you can't do it. Okay. All right. Um, I just don't find the value in it to go work that hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
I easily may master an IDPA, but um, I'm just not going to go out and bust my tail on all the expense to go chasing this card and grab and
A
USPSA. It
title.
doesn't
Yeah.
interest me. If
Sure.
it interests you, go knock yourself out. I'm not saying don't be good.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a problem with having. Let me rephrase that. You there's never too much technical skill.
Mm-hmm.
The more technical skill you have, the better off you're going to be. Um, but as you stated in your question, is on the law enforcement side, you do actually apply.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you press the trigger or not, you are involved in use of force decisions on a pretty frequent basis. And you learn to process that information in a way that you're not going to get on a square range somewhere or a competition range.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and just you get the access to that. Like I've got a computer at my work that has all kind of scenarios built in it. That's got a projector screen, and can go run through all of those scenarios. We can all put on soft armoring, load up sim guns, and
Mm-hmm.
play building clearing, and
Mm-hmm.
shoot each other with sim rounds and everything. So you do get that opportunity more so in the public institutional sector than you do in the private open enrollment sector. And there's no translation for that experience.
Yeah.
Now, how to run a gun translates across all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I make a lot of people on the highly technical side mad. It's like, well, all you know is what the readout is on the timer. That's all you know. And so that's what you base all of your decisions on.
And yes, there is a go signal in real life, but it's not an auditory go signal usually.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that,
Yeah.
is interesting about our community and how we train. It's almost always an auditory go signal.
Right.
And that's not necessarily real life. So
right.
That's just one small example.
Right. Just the simple advent of using a turning target versus an audible go signal can be different for people because they can't be having their eyes fixed on where they're going to draw and present to. They got to wait for it to appear.
Yeah, I had a really, I don't think I've ever talked about this. It just had never occurred to me. But when I went to Gunsight, they had those targets that spin around. And that was the first very harsh lesson that I learned. No one yelled at me. I was yelling at myself to manage my ammo properly because I ran out of ammo when the target turned toward me. I should have been able to just I could feel the heaviness of my gun and know that it was almost out of ammo. And did I choose to do attack reload in between when I had the time? No. And then that target turned around and I maybe had 2 rounds left and that was it. And that feeling, even though that wasn't a real person standing there, they had simulated it good enough that I had some adrenaline going and I was really, in my mind, that was a real person. And I lost in my mind. And I remember going back to my motel that night and just feeling so like, oh my God, Lora, you had an opportunity to top off between, the next evolution and you didn't do it. And from then on, Lee, that is just something automatically in my mind. I'll never forget to top off my mag when I have the opportunity.
It's amazing how just a little bit of cognitive load causes the technical skills to completely erode.
Yeah.
Performing a reload is not hard.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. Having the processing brain power to know.
Well, I needed forethought in order to do it. I needed to be thinking, and obviously I wasn't. I must have just been in drill mode where I'm like, so what? I'll just reload it whenever. But if this is real, then I needed to be putting myself in the realness of that situation. And for whatever reason, that moment just solidified in my brain
Hmm.
And I never failed to manage my ammunition from then on.
Yep.
So
You
yeah,
experienced something.
yeah,
You experienced, and you know,
it left an impact on me.
experiential learning theory.
Yeah.
You experienced something. You had the chance to reflect on it,
Hmm.
and you absorbed that experience, and it stuck with you.
Hmm.
And now you know it changes the way you do things going forward.
And thank God that that was in a training environment, in a
Hmm.
safe training environment, and I got to learn the lesson that
Right.
way. So I'm thankful for that.
You know, I mentioned John Hearn and Elk Gearhouse earlier in the event that we run, Cognitive Conclave. It's 2 days of us putting you under cognitive load and, you know, running shooting problems. And, you know, this is amazing the things that you see that people that have really good skill, good technical skill,
Hmm.
that fall apart when they get cognitive load.
Hmm. And
And
not very much of it either.
right. And if you're
Yeah.
not exposing yourself to that in training, you're not going to be ready for
Hmm.
it when it actually happens.
Hmm. What do you mean, Lee? You're not going to rise to the occasion?
Oh no, 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 no. I'm not going to suddenly be able to run a 4 minute mile.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It is just funny though. I think some people really do believe they'll just rise to the occasion,
Yeah.
and be a
It, it's
hero.
it's funny. My mother never learned how to swim.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that.
Um, the church that we attended, I was growing up, had a swimming pool.
Really?
Yeah, the church
Wow.
had a swimming pool. My mother actually worked for the church and everything. It would be like we'd be there while she was at work. Hey, can we go swimming? She's like, I can't go out there with you right now.
Oh,
And one day I asked her, I said, Mama, you can't swim. What good is it going to do for you to be out there? Anyway, she said, I'll figure out something if you need,
yeah.
you know. And I go back to that now. It's like she wasn't going to suddenly learn how to swim,
Mhm.
you know, and be able to come in and rescue one of us.
Mhm. Yep, I have the same issue, and I have thought about it, and I will not take my kids anywhere swimming in any, even by the river, anywhere near water without my husband. I
Mm-hmm.
just won't. So, because we did have someone locally here that died of drowning in the river. A kid did because the parent
Yeah,
couldn't save him, and it was just so tragic. And
yeah,
that really hit home for me. And I thought, I need a plan for this.
yeah,
So we just don't go unless my husband's there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I would die trying, Lee, but I would definitely die.
yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, I own several guitars.
Hmm.
I'm not a good guitar player.
I was going to ask you, are you a musician?
I own several, but I'm not a good player at all. I can tell
Yeah.
you everything I know in about 15 minutes.
Do you
Uh,
like to sing?
I used to. I don't do much of it anymore.
Oh, you have a great texture in your voice. That's what made me wonder.
Thank you. I used to do some church singing and some other things. I don't do any anymore.
I know
Um,
what point you're going to make here. Go ahead with it.
but you know, I've got the fact that I own four guitars,
Uh-huh.
three now. I sold one. The fact that I own three very nice guitars doesn't make me a musician.
Hmm.
I haven't put in the technical study to get good at that. I can strum chords in the keys of G and D. And if you get away from that, you have exceeded my ability.
Yeah.
Um,
It's the same thing.
just owning a firearm doesn't make you proficient with that firearm.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm not going to suddenly, if a bad guy kicked in my door and said, I'm going to, you know, murder you and everybody you hold dear, unless you can play the Moonlight Sonata on that guitar right now, I'm not going to suddenly be able to pick it up and play the Moonlight Sonata.
Hmm.
I'm just not going to be able to do that. Um, but you know, you can correlate that over to
It's a great
training,
analogy.
right? Um, but you can also say that the technical skill that you're going to need to actually solve an event probably is not going to be that much of technical skill. You're not going to have to be grandmaster level to do it. You can probably do it. The military has done some studies correlating, and they say after once you hit like USPSA B class, they start to get into diminishing returns.
Hmm.
And it's like, so work hard to get your technical skill to that point, maintain that technical skill, which requires recency of training and,
Mm-hmm.
consistent practice. But then we need to start working on other things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which, it's situational awareness, paying attention, avoiding trouble.
Mm-hmm.
A good flashlight
Mm-hmm.
turned on at the right time can save you from a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of places you can't take a gun legally, so having other skills are are very important as well. Uh, Shooting's fun.
It is.
It's fun, and if going out and chasing master and grandmaster is your heart's desire, have at it.
Mm-hmm.
Have at it. Have fun, but understand that's not the be all end all, and that people that want to get solid with the presentation from the holster, their skills and everything, but then they want to go take a medical class. They want to go take other things. That doesn't make them mediocre.
Well, that reminds me of one of my questions.
Mhm.
You talk about focusing on essentials doesn't mean settling for mediocrity. What do you mean by that?
Just that, be able to get the gun out of the holster in a reasonable time. Be able
Okay.
to meet accuracy standards on demand, everything.
So you're not talking about a 1 second draw to
Right,
first shot kind of thing like
right,
that.
right.
Okay.
But in the training world, we get locked in on if you don't have a sub-second draw, then whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can find very few gunfights that the speed of the draw was actually relevant to the outcome. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there's probably been some,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't just see it.
So what is this argument of having a surplus of skill then? What is that all about?
I actually just interviewed Jim Shanahan on my show
Oh
last
yeah, I
year.
love
This
Jim.
week's episode where he talked about surplus of skill.
Oh, okay.
Um, Again, technical skill is a good thing, and if you've worked hard enough to have that sub-second draw, which I don't think really exists, uh, good for you. But if you're telling someone else that's working hard and they're giving you that 1.3 or that 1.5, or you're going to fail because you don't have the sub-second draw,
Oh, I get what you're saying then. Yeah. That's not true. Yeah.
it's just not true.
Yeah.
Um, Good, core, solid, essential skills on demand,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, doesn't make you a mediocre shooter, a mediocre person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who was a better shooter, the USPSA master or grandmaster, or one of the old PPC bullseye guys? Yeah, back when I used to compete in IDPA, there was a local guy that was a master. Back then, I was a sharpshooter expert back in those days. That I think he ultimately ended up making distinguished master. I couldn't come close to touching him on an IDPA range. We both showed up at a Glock match, and I beat him by 20 seconds. Because all the moving in and out of firing position and all that kind of stuff, all the playing of the game was gone. It's just we're going to stand here and deliver,
Mm-hmm.
and shoot the speed and accuracy. So which set of rules are we playing by?
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of one of the blocks of classes I took at a Girl in a Gun conference last year. You were there last year, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I never did. I don't think I ever got to talk to you. But
Yeah.
anyway, there was a lot of instructors there. It's like, geez, talking to every one of them is impossible almost. What was the guy's name? Daryl. He's a big guy with a beard.
Daryl Bulkey.
Bulky, yeah. I took his class. I
Mm-hmm.
forget what the name of it was, but he had it was a shoot no shoot type,
Mm-hmm.
thinking based thing.
Yeah.
And he got after me because I had developed a habit in competitive shooting of flagging innocent people, basically.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, I can just switch that off. I'm not going to do that. And I did it like 3 times in a row before I finally got so mad at myself that I was able to bring that muzzle down and then go to the shoot target. But yeah, that was one thing. And I left that class so mad, not at him, but at myself, and talked to him later afterwards, and he was very encouraging. But that was just an example of a habit that I had that I didn't realize I had.
Mm-hmm.
That he really brought that out and pinpointed it and highlighted it and went, well, what about this in your decisional shooting scenario? You probably don't want to be flagging innocent people, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And if you would ask me, are you going to flag innocent people? I would say, of course not. I would never do that.
Right.
So that was great learning for me.
Right, because in the competition, even in IDPA, which is supposedly defensive based, it's not. It's a game. But in USPSA, we're being judged by a clock,
Mm-hmm.
and so the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've got shoot target on the right, no shoot in the middle, shoot target on the left, well, the fastest thing for me to do is engage that target on the right, go straight line across.
That's what I kept doing. Yeah.
All right. It's going to slow me down if I avert the muzzle or divert the muzzle, whichever word you want to use, divert that muzzle to go around that no threat, over, under, however you're going to do it, and come back to another target. It's going to add to your time.
Mm-hmm.
But in the real world, and I know the competition folks hate when you say the real world, it is some level of a crime to sweep the muzzle across that no shoot person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that if you would have asked me before I took that, and they would have told me what the course of fire was, I was adamant that I would never flag an innocent party.
Right.
I couldn't even conjure doing that, but I didn't realize I had been doing that and practicing it in competition. It didn't occur to me that I'd actually been practicing that. So that was really interesting to me. Yep. So, yeah.
And again, it's fine if you want to go play those games. I used to show up at a cop class and be one of the best shooters in the cop class, and I thought I was good. I went to my first IDPA match, walked through the door thinking I was going to walk out having shown all these, private citizens how to do this, and got absolutely smoked. Like, oh, there's a whole different level of good out here.
This is the way of the world. Humble pie is a thing.
Right. And so then I started concentrating on that technical skill portion of it and everything. Yeah. But you can't, it's both of them balance into the equation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we were going to talk about domains of knowledge. There's this thing that came out of some Department of Defense research in the 1950s. A psychologist, last name of Bloom, came up with what he called Bloom's taxonomy, and he phrases domains of knowledge. And like the lowest level is you're being exposed to material. The next level is you remembering the material. Then it's, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, being able to regurgitate the material. And the highest levels are being able to take material and compare and contrast it to each other and make judgments. And then at the top is being able to create and synthesize your own material based upon your knowledge of a topic. In the law enforcement world, in the private sector world, and I don't know about the military, but I'm sure it's probably the same thing. We go to this one class and we get this instructor certificate and we think we're the expert. We want to run out and start teaching classes when really we're at the lowest level. We're at the second level in that domain of knowledge. And it's really not until you're up in where you're able to start being able to synthesize and create your own material that you're really qualified to be out.
And I don't even think that years of experience even is the factor. I think it is exposure to new information and who it is that you're listening to in your circle. And are you reaching out for new information on a regular basis? Yeah. That is more important to me than how many years one has been an instructor.
Right. When I have someone come to a class and say at the end, they walk up and say, this was the first class I've ever taken. And I said, well, you know what? Then it was both the best and the worst class that you have ever taken then. Because they don't know whether it was good or bad.
Yeah.
They can say, well, I had a good time and I got exposed to things I didn't know before, but do they really have a basis of knowledge to know
Nothing to compare it
good
to.
or bad?
Yeah.
Right. You know, I've been to classes when I was a newbie. Like, oh wow, that guy, he's teaching the class. He must know what he's talking about. And then later on, like that guy had no clue.
Yeah.
And or now I go to one and they're like, yeah, this isn't Mesh, this isn't Gene and Han, but you got that other level of knowledge to be able to compare and contrast and synthesize and make judgments as to whether or not it's good.
Has having all of the people that you've had on your podcast helped you with that a little bit?
Some, yeah, because it exposes. Sometimes somebody will say something that'll cause me to go digging into a question or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and learn more about it. More so has just been the breadth of experience over years, and then challenging assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I will say this, as far as a podcast guest that really, really put things into focus for me, Jerry McCown, who was a longtime gun psych guy.
Mm-hmm.
I had him on the show, and he talked about an incident in which an instructor embarrassed a student.
Oh.
And he pointed out that if you embarrass a student, you have lost them forever.
Mm.
And I immediately, when I talk about people that I owe apologies to, I was like,
You've done that.
there have
Yeah.
been times where I've done that. And that's when I started seeking out information on teaching adults. Like, I've got all this stuff that I've learned and all these things. What's the barrier to presenting it to the students effectively? And quite frankly, I was the barrier.
Mm.
And the way I was presenting things, and it's like, I've got to get better. And that's what I went to, did that other graduate program, and started focusing in on different methods and techniques for disseminating information. And I like to say it now as teaching through questions versus teaching through mandate.
Mm.
What characteristic of adult learners that adults want to be self-directing. So instead of me directing you, I give you choices. Now, sometimes I may intentionally give you a bad choice compared to a good choice.
You'll pick the good one, yeah.
So you'll pick the good one. And just like the drawing a pistol from the holster, the 4-count draw stroke.
Mm-hmm.
On the 1, the strong hand goes to the pistol, support hand goes center of line. 2, pistol is lifted from the holster and muzzle's turned towards the target. 3, the hands meet center line, and 4 is presented, to the target. I can't tell you how many times I have fussed at people for letting that support hand dangle instead of going, no, Thorson, I've told you on the 1, the support hand goes center line. And so now when I'm working with a new student, it's like, hey, what I want you to do is start with your hand on the pistol and your support hand dangling by your side, and give me 5 presentations. Now I want you to start with your hand on the pistol, your support hand center line, and give me 5 presentations. And then I ask, what did you notice?
Mm-hmm.
And I inevitably get, when my support hand was center line, I established my grip. They'll say something like better or sooner or whatever, or I was able to see the sights quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Or I didn't feel like I was chasing the gun with my support hand versus when it started down here by my side. And, okay, so which one do you think is probably the better approach? Oh, definitely getting the gun to my support hand to center line. Well, that's what you should do.
You know what else I think that teaches students is that when the right questions are asked, the answers come from them, not from an external source.
Right.
And as a student, I've made the mistake early in my student career, I guess you'd say, of giving so much weight to the instructor and looking to them for the answer that I didn't realize I could find the answer myself if I experimented enough and got really curious. And even I could come up with different answers that work better for me than what I was even taught. And I think at the end of the day, that's really what a true student is. A student, for me, like, I think I should be a student of myself, of what really works for me well, and understand why that is. So I think I learned to be a better student.
Yeah. Well, the whole traveling instructor model is built on I've got 1 day or 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
to impart a bunch of information on you, and then I'm leaving town and you're going home. And the
Mhm.
whole theory is that you're going to go practice
Yeah,
what
you would think.
yeah. Um, versus, if I had you in like a training club
Yeah.
or like the martial
Wanna go
arts
in.
model where you go every, one night a week or 2 nights a week and everything.
Yeah.
And you could do things over time.
Yeah.
Before I took the job that I'm in currently, um, I before I retired from the sheriff's office, one of my last things there was I was running a training program for jailers that were going to go to the police academy, and so I got to experiment with a lot of this because I was doing the grad program as I was running that thing. So I would go out and experiment with this stuff with my jailers.
Mhm.
And then now that I'm teaching in this session that I am now, I just have carried that over, and I'm seeing the results of it from that way.
So
Um,
you were right. You are a teacher at heart, and you always have been.
right. And so, like I say, what I found out is there is no difference between pedagogy and andragogy. It's all student-centered learning.
Yeah.
Is you got to focus on the student. I was sitting around with a bunch of my colleagues one day, and we had some students fail a test. And we were looking at the questions that students missed and everything like that. And like one of them, I covered that and everything. And I explained that, whatever. And it dawned on me. And I said, guys, it doesn't matter that we threw it out to them. It only matters if they caught it. So we have to do a better job of imparting that information. So just the fact that it was on the PowerPoint slide and you mentioned it, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make sure if they didn't learn it, if they didn't understand it, then you didn't teach it.
Mm-hmm.
You may have put forth the information. So you got to come up with ways to do that. So I teach criminal law and criminal procedure in my full-time job. And so when I do that, I've come up with all kind of scenarios and everything that they actually have to take the material that's coming from the original presentation and then take it and apply that to a scenario, and then we discuss the
That's like
scenarios.
the third domain of knowledge.
Right. Getting
Yeah.
up to having to apply it. They're giving them, going back to that adult learning theory, a practical application
Yeah.
to the material. And then if we give them a test on it, and what we're seeing is the test scores are better with the students that have gone through scenarios.
That makes
that
sense.
just go through a
I mean, how many PowerPoint presentations have you sat through that it just went most of it? Yeah. I think most of us have. I don't think they're very effective most of the time, unless they're used as a supplemental aid.
Right. And there's some of it you have to do that to set stage and give a foundation of informational knowledge.
They have a place. Yeah.
But, if you've worked in any kind of corporate America job, you've had to go through all kind of training from human resources. And you walk in and you go, first thing you sit down and say, what's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to go to this class and sit in it. And one of the things I learned along this journey is every year here in Georgia, peace officers are required to take a class on deadly force. But there's never any assessment to see if they're actually learning
Really
knowledge. They just go sit through that 1 hour PowerPoint on use of force, and it gets entered in, and on our
like checking a box then.
on our data gateway, it switches from red to green that they've had their deadly force training, and they go on out for another year.
I wouldn't call that training.
It's
That
not.
would be exposure.
It's exposure. And so one year, I got on, I forget the name of the program that I used, but it was basically an online poll everywhere was the program. And I wrote a bunch of questions on use of force and put it in this PowerPoint thing that would come up on the screen where they could all see it. And I told everybody to bring either a smartphone, a laptop, or a tablet to class with them. And I started running the questions, and I made a deal with them. I said, if on any question we get 100% correct answer, I'll just throw up the next question. if anybody misses the question, I'm going to teach that material that question was based on. And every time I did it, even with 20 and 30-year career guys in there, I had to teach every question.
You're kidding me. Wow.
Because we're just throwing out information. We're not doing a practical, there's no scenario with it that where they can make mental connections to the material, anything. So I just sit there and it's like, sooner or later, he'll get to the last slide and we'll be able to go.
Yeah.
You've got to put that, there's got to be some sort of assessment model to make sure that we're, to measure how effectively we're presenting the information and whether or not it's actually being understood.
You're doing good work, Lee. That is really important.
It's a thimble trying to empty the ocean, but
but it all helps. Wow. Well, I feel like we could sit here and talk for hours more, but we probably should wrap it up, don't you think?
All right. Well, if I could make a shameless plug.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going next.
Under the Rangemaster umbrella, I have a new course that is debuting on April the 18th, I think it is, called Enhanced Coaching Skills. And basically, this class is for people who are already a certified instructor. Whether you've gone through Rangemaster's instructor program or you're a certified law enforcement firearms instructor. And it's going to be all about teaching the individual student. Because in the institutional world, a firearms instructor class is how to run a line of students through a course of fire, how to grade it, how to do all that kind of stuff. It's not about me working with you and fixing you. You got to figure all that out on your own. And so the class is going to start out with, I'm going to give you the material on adult learning characteristics and student-centered learning. We're going to have probably 3 hours on that before we go to the range. And then we're going to work through some individual shooting diagnostics that I have learned from other instructors and some that I have developed myself. And then going to go through, that's going to be the rest of day one. And it's all about how do I take Lora Thorson and help Lora Thorson be a better shooter, or whoever the shooter is. And basically, I'm trying to teach you how to coach you.
That's cool. I love that.
Right. And then
can people find that on your website?
It's on the Rangemaster.
Rangemaster.
Rangemaster.com.
Okay.
But because it's going to be done through them, but I'll link it on my stuff too. It's on some of the social media stuff.
And for those of you that are listening and not watching, if you want to find out more about Lee or train with him, you can go to firstpersonsafety.com or thatweemsguy.com to listen to the podcast. What did we miss, Lee? Where will you be this year besides Rangemaster? You get a girl and a gun this year?
I'll be at a girl and a gun. Coming up in March, you got the tactical conference in Dallas.
Okay.
And that is a gathering of like 42 instructors, 42, 44, something like that. 3-day event. All of us teaching 2-hour blocks. And you have to sign up for the live fire classes, but all the classroom portions are just go in and grab a seat. And so basically it is a huge smorgasbord of training opportunities. You can go I want to spend 2 hours with that guy, see if I like what they have to say or not, whether I want to go pay to do a full class with them or not.
That's cool.
And that's in Dallas, Texas at the Dallas Pistol Club the last weekend in March. Find it on rangemaster.com. I've got a girl and a gun, which is May, isn't it?
First part of May, yeah.
First part of May in Colorado. I haven't talked to Robin yet about what classes will be, but it will probably be my trigger management classes where I do all the individual diagnostic stuff, and then we'll come up with something else if she wants more than that. That's what I taught last year with trigger management. And then in October, the last weekend in October, I think that's the 24th and the 25th, here in Georgia, John Hearn and Eric Gelhaus will be at the Red Hill Range up in Martin, Georgia, doing the Cognitive Conclave, and we do not have registration information out for that yet.
Okay.
That's forthcoming.
That's a full year.
Yeah, that's the big group stuff that I got coming on, and then like I said, the enhanced coaching skills will debut in April.
I just don't think you have enough stuff going on, Lee. Not at all. Between the podcast, the job, training, I mean. Not
Yeah,
at all.
it's funny. It's like some days I'm sitting there, gosh, I got too much to go. I want a break. And then when I have a day off from everything, like I did over the holidays,
Yeah,
I go stir crazy.
me too. I didn't know what to do with myself. It was so weird.
Yeah, I
And
go
then
ahead.
getting back on track was hard for me too. So I think it's better for me just to not have that much downtime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my alarm went off to go back to the office for the first day the other day, and I woke up literally. What is that noise?
The alarm.
Oh, it's my alarm.
Wow, you adapted quickly.
Yeah, yep.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank
Thank
you
you. I
so
enjoyed it.
much for your time. We went an hour 30. That's
Oh,
longer
well.
than I usually have with guests,
Okay.
but I love your stories. You're great to have on the show, and you've been so gracious with your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.